Most of what gets said about poverty is structurally wrong. The framing is wrong. The cause assigned to it is wrong. The solution proposed by that framing is wrong because it solves the wrong problem at the wrong layer of the architecture. Hill spent 25 years on this question. The commission Andrew Carnegie gave him in 1908 ran for 20 years. Hill kept working past it. By the time he finished Outwitting the Devil in 1938, he had been studying the question of why some people accumulate wealth and others live their lives inside scarcity for closer to 3 decades. Over 500 of the most successful people in America sat across the table from him. An even larger number of people who had failed were studied alongside them. Both ends of the same machine, both runs of the same architecture, same gears, different output. What he found contradicts what the culture says about poverty. The culture says poverty comes from lack of opportunity, lack of education, lack of resources, bad luck, bad timing, unfair systems, or the moral failings of the poor. Hill examined every one of these factors. None of them held up across his data. He kept finding people with every external advantage who still ended in poverty. He kept finding people with every external disadvantage who still built fortunes. The external factors failed to predict the outcome. What predicted the outcome was something running underneath the externals, something with no relationship to what sat in the bank account on any given day. Something with every relationship to what was running in the deeper mind of the person attached to the bank account. Hill came to a conclusion that was uncomfortable in 1938, and remains uncomfortable now. Poverty as a sustained condition over years operates as a misunderstanding, a specific misunderstanding about how the mind produces results. A misunderstanding installed early, running without permission, producing the very condition the person carrying it fears the most. That is a heavy sentence. Let it sit before we walk through what is underneath it. This is the before state. We are going to walk through what produces it. Then, we are going to walk through the after state. The contrast is the engine of this script. If this is hitting you right now, drop a like. It helps get this in front of the right people. Hill found that the person in sustained poverty carried a specific cluster of inner conditions. Across the data, the pattern repeated often enough that ignoring it became impossible. The cluster had a name in Hill's work. He devoted an entire chapter of Think and Grow Rich to it. Chapter 15, the first of 6 basic fears he identified. He called it the most destructive of all the fears because it operated on the deeper mind in a way the other fears did not. The first layer of the misunderstanding sits here. The conscious mind, when it fears something, believes it is moving away from that thing. Someone who fears poverty believes they are working hard to avoid poverty. They watch the bank account. They cut expenses. They take on extra work. They say no to things they want because the things cost money. They believe every act moves them further from the condition they fear. The deeper mind operates by different laws. The deeper mind processes content. It processes what is being thought about, what is being felt, what is being dwelt on. The direction of the thought does not register at the deeper layer. The deeper mind hears poverty and registers poverty. It hears broke and registers broke. It hears I do not want to be broke and registers broke. The instruction the deeper mind receives is whatever the conscious mind is dwelling on. Regardless of whether the conscious mind is dwelling on it in fear or in desire, Hill put it directly. The mind moves toward its dominant thought, whether the thought is desired or dreaded. The deeper mind accepts the instruction and begins building reality around it. The emotional sign on the instruction makes no difference to the mechanism. The frequency of the instruction makes all the difference. The fear of poverty, sustained daily for years, is the most reliable instruction the deeper mind ever receives from someone who is afraid of being broke. Someone who spends their waking hours thinking about how to avoid being broke feeds the deeper mind a continuous stream of one instruction: broke, broke, broke. The deeper mind receives the instruction across every channel the architecture allows. Eyes scanning bills, voice mentioning prices, body tightening at the supermarket checkout, hand hesitating at the gas pump. emotion riding every input. The deeper mind accepts the instruction. It begins running the program. Picture a man at a desk in a small apartment. He has worked 19 years and saved very little. He blames the wages. He blames the housing market. He blames the timing of 2 recessions. Every blame is partially true at the surface. Underneath every blame, the same architecture runs the same instruction. He has spent 19 years thinking primarily about not falling further behind. The instruction has been broke, broke, broke. For 19 years. The deeper mind has executed the instruction faithfully. The apartment is small because the instruction said small. The savings are thin because the instruction said thin. The architecture works perfectly. The output is the input made visible. The application window for this first layer is everywhere if you know how to look. Take the case of someone who walks into a grocery store and feels a knot tighten as the cart fills. The conscious mind says they are being responsible. The deeper mind says, broke. Take the case of someone who opens their banking app 12 times a day. The conscious mind says they are staying on top of things. The deeper mind says broke. Take the case of someone who reflexively quotes a lower rate than they had planned to quote. The conscious mind says they were being realistic. The deeper mind says broke. Take the case of someone who turns down a small luxury they could afford and feels virtuous for the refusal. The conscious mind says they were being prudent. The deeper mind says broke. Take the case of someone who reads an article about wealth and feels a small wave of contempt rise. The conscious mind says they are being honest about the world. The deeper mind says we are not those kinds of people. Take the case of someone who hears a friend describe a financial win and feels a flicker of envy followed by a faster flicker of good for them. The conscious mind says they are being generous. The deeper mind says we will not be having that conversation about ourselves. Each of these moments looks ordinary from the outside. From the architecture, each is the same instruction being fed to the same layer in the same voice. The deeper mind keeps the receipts. The deeper mind organizes life around what it hears most. You with me? Good. That is the first layer of the misunderstanding. The second layer is what Hill named in Chapter 15, the symptoms. Hill listed the symptoms of the fear of poverty in Chapter 15, 6 of them. Each one represents a behavior the deeper mind produces once the instruction has been accepted. The person experiencing the symptom thinks they are dealing with circumstances. They are watching their own program execute. The naming is the diagnostic. Once you see the 6 symptoms, you see the disease. Indifference? A willingness to tolerate the existing condition. Acceptance of whatever life offers. A quiet shrug at the question of whether more is possible. The deeper mind has been told, this is what we have, this is what we get. And the body executes the shrug across every conversation, every opportunity, every choice. Someone in this state hears about a possibility and feels nothing. Someone in this state is offered a chance and finds reasons it does not apply to them. Someone in this state stops asking the question of what they want because the question feels embarrassing to ask. Indifference looks like wisdom from the outside. It reads as humility. From inside the architecture, it is the deeper mind protecting the set point by removing the desire that would threaten the set point. Indecision, the habit of allowing others to do the thinking, of staying on the fence about every important question. The deeper mind has been told, do not commit, and the body refuses commitment in every situation that calls for it. Someone in this state postpones the meeting. Someone in this state asks for one more conversation, one more piece of information, one more opinion. Someone in this state finds genuine satisfaction in not having decided yet. The deeper mind reads commitment as risk to the set point. The body produces postponement as the perfect solution. Postponement keeps the set point safe. The cost of postponement is everything that would have grown beyond the set point if commitment had happened. Doubt, the habit of looking for alibis when faced with the question of why life turned out the way it did. The deeper mind has been told, expect to fail, and the body finds reasons to confirm the expectation. Someone in this state begins a project carrying the explanation for its failure in advance. Someone in this state hedges every plan with the conditions under which it will be abandoned. Someone in this state speaks about future success in conditional tenses. The deeper mind hears the conditional tense and accepts the instruction. The result conforms to the tense. Worry. The habit of finding fault with others, of living with constant low-grade anxiety about money, about the future, about what is going to go wrong next. The deeper mind has been told, stay vigilant for danger, and the body cannot relax because the search never ends. Someone in this state cannot sit still in the evening because the worry needs somewhere to live. Someone in this state runs scenarios in the shower, in the car, in the moments before sleep. Someone in this state wakes at 3 in the morning to a chest full of unresolved threat. The body produces the chemistry of threat because the deeper mind keeps requesting it. The body that has been producing threat chemistry for decades arrives in middle age with the conditions that come from decades of threat chemistry. Overcaution, the habit of seeing the negative side of every circumstance, looking for the failure mode instead of the opportunity mode. The deeper mind has been told, protect against loss, and the body refuses any move that carries possibility, because possibility carries risk. Someone in this state evaluates an opportunity by asking what could go wrong. Someone in this state declines invitations because the cost-benefit feels off. Someone in this state stays at the job for 14 years because leaving feels risky, and staying feels safe. The deeper mind has confused safety with sameness. The body executes the confusion daily. The cost is invisible because it shows up as the life that did not happen. Procrastination. The habit of putting off until tomorrow what should have been done last year. The deeper mind has been told, now is not the time, and the body confirms it daily by waiting. Someone in this state writes the goal down in January and reads it again in November. Someone in this state has been planning the move, the call, the conversation, the change, for as long as anyone can remember. Someone in this state genuinely believes the timing has been wrong every time the timing was checked. The deeper mind keeps producing the next acceptable reason. The body keeps accepting it. 6 symptoms, 1 disease, 1 instruction running underneath all of them. The fear of poverty, repeated until the deeper mind accepted it as the operating program. The symptoms are the program executing. Hill said in Chapter 15 that the fear of poverty is a state of mind, nothing else. The state of mind sits sufficient to destroy a person's chances of achievement in any undertaking. He was not exaggerating for effect. He had spent 25 years watching the state of mind do exactly this in life after life. The good news in the same sentence is that a state of mind is something the operator can change. States of mind are subject to control and direction. A mind occupied by faith cannot simultaneously be occupied by fear. One displaces the other. The displacement is the work. We will get there, okay. So those are the 6 symptoms. The third layer is the filter. The filter is the part of the mind that decides what reaches awareness. The world produces far more sensory information every second than the conscious mind can process. The system filters. It deletes most of what is available. It forwards a small slice. The slice that gets forwarded is determined by what the deeper mind has been told to look for. This is the part that explains why someone who has just decided to buy a particular car suddenly sees that car everywhere. The cars were always on the road. The filter was deleting them. The instruction changed. The filter changed. Now the cars appear. This is also the part that explains why someone who has been told they are unwelcome at work begins to notice every glance, every silence, every door that closes nearby. The glances and silences and doors were always there. The filter was deleting them. The instruction changed. The filter changed. The evidence appears. The filter forwards what matches the query the deeper mind has been carrying. It does what it has always done. Someone carrying the fear of poverty as a daily instruction has a filter set to scarcity. The filter forwards every sign of scarcity in the environment. Every bill higher than expected, every news story about people losing money. Every conversation in line at the store about how expensive things have become. Every friend whose situation has worsened. Every advertisement that costs too much. Every restaurant menu that has gone up. Every gas pump number that rises. The filter is doing its job. It forwards what matches the query. The query is broke. The matches are everywhere. Picture the filter as a small sorting station at the entrance to consciousness. Trains of sensory information arrive every second. The sorter has a list of what to keep and what to discard. The list was given to the sorter by the deeper mind. The list says scarcity, threat to scarcity, confirmation of scarcity, evidence of scarcity. The sorter throws away every train that does not match the list and forwards every train that does. By the end of a day, the conscious mind has been delivered 500 small pieces of evidence that the world is expensive, dangerous, and getting worse. The conscious mind concludes that the world is in fact expensive, dangerous, and getting worse. The conscious mind feels this conclusion is responsive to reality. The conscious mind has not been shown reality. The conscious mind has been shown the slice that confirms the instruction. The application window for this third layer runs through every ordinary moment of the day. Someone with the scarcity filter set walks past a store window and notices the price tag before the dress. Someone with the scarcity filter set scrolls through a news feed and registers every financial collapse headline while sliding past every story of unlikely abundance. Someone with the scarcity filter set hears a colleague mention a vacation and calculates the cost before registering the joy of the trip. Someone with the scarcity filter set runs into an old friend who has prospered and notices a small detail that lets them keep the friend at a comfortable distance. Someone with the scarcity filter set reads a book on wealth and remembers the parts that confirm wealth is hard or rare or unfair. The filter does not lie. The filter forwards what matches. The matches are real. The matches are also the slice. The unmatched material was real too. The unmatched material did not arrive at the front desk. Drop a comment and tell us which part of this you are going to sit with for a while. Good. The filter is the third layer. The fourth is the set point. The set point is what holds the room temperature steady regardless of what you do at the conscious layer. Proctor taught this for 60 years on stage. He used the thermostat analogy until the analogy became inseparable from the principle. The thermostat is set to a particular temperature. The room moves around that temperature, and the system always pulls back to the set point. If the room gets too cold, the heat comes on. If it gets too warm, the heat shuts off. The set point is the law. Everything else adjusts. The deeper mind holds a set point for how much should be in the account, what kind of work the operator should be doing, what kind of room the operator should be in, what kind of relationships the operator should have, what level of comfort or struggle feels normal. The set point was installed by repetition long ago, most of it before age 7. It enforces itself daily without your permission. What this looks like in financial life is the pattern Hill watched in case after case. Money that comes in finds a way to leave. Unexpected expenses appear. A car breaks down the week after a small windfall. A medical bill arrives the week after a raise. A friend asks to borrow exactly the amount of the bonus. A tax error comes back asking for the savings. From the outside, this looks like bad luck. From the inside, it looks like a pattern. From the architecture, the set point is doing precisely what set points do. The thermostat pulls the room back to the temperature it has been holding for years. Picture a house with a thermostat set to 68 degrees. The conscious mind walks into the living room with a space heater and turns it on full blast. The room warms up to 75. The conscious mind feels pleased. The thermostat, doing its job, kicks in the air conditioning. The room cools back to 68. The thermostat works harder. The conscious mind brings in a third heater. The system runs the air conditioning around the clock. Eventually, the heaters wear out and the thermostat wins. The thermostat always wins. The thermostat is wired to the wall. The heaters are not wired to anything. This is what happens when someone increases their income through conscious effort and watches the increase evaporate through unrelated expenses, unexpected losses, lifestyle inflation, or self-sabotage. The conscious mind brought in space heaters. The thermostat brought the room back to its set point. The set point is the inner script. The inner script does not change because the conscious mind brought in more heaters. The inner script changes only when the dial gets turned at the source. Proctor lived this himself. Before he found Think and Grow Rich, he was earning $4,000 a year as a fireman. The inner script said 4,000. The room held at 4,000. Then he changed the script. He read a passage from the book daily. He fed the deeper mind a different instruction. The set point moved. Within a year, he was earning $175,000. Later, he earned over $1 million in a single year. The room temperature followed the thermostat. The thermostat followed the script. The script followed the daily input. The application window for the set point is observable in every story you have ever heard about a lottery winner who lost it all in 3 years. The conscious mind received the money. The set point received nothing. The set point pulled the room back to the temperature it had been holding for 40 years. Within 3 years, the room was back to 68. The conscious mind blamed the money, the people who appeared, the bad advisors, the family pressure. The mechanism was simpler. The thermostat was never replaced. The money came in. The money left. The set point held. You see why this changes things? The fifth layer is the body in the broadcast. Hill called the body an instrument of the mind. Every condition in the body reflects the programming of the deeper mind. Proctor put the body at the bottom of the stick person diagram. Conscious mind on top, deeper mind in the middle, body at the bottom. The body acts out whatever the deeper mind is running. The body of someone carrying the fear of poverty broadcasts the carrying. The body moves differently. The shoulders carry tension that does not release. The walk shortens. The voice on the phone hesitates at certain prices. The handshake at the meeting is slightly less firm than it could be. The eye contact in the negotiation breaks slightly earlier than it could break. The clothes hang differently. The way the body sits in a chair across from a potential client carries the signal of someone who is hoping rather than expecting. Subscribe if you want more of this. We teach from Carnegie, Hill, Nightingale, Proctor, and the full lineage, and we go this deep every single time. This is mechanics. The body responds to the instruction the deeper mind is carrying. The room responds to the body. The room is not punishing anyone. The room is responding to the broadcast it is receiving. People who broadcast the signal of someone in scarcity get offered what scarcity attracts. They get offered work at the rate that matches the broadcast. They get offered apartments at the price that matches the broadcast. They get offered relationships that match the broadcast. The world is fair. The world responds to what is being sent. Every brain operates as both a transmitter and a receiver of thought frequency. Hill spent the most time on this principle in Chapter 12. The frequency you broadcast determines what you attract. A mind dwelling on scarcity broadcasts scarcity. The frequency travels invisibly. Receivers in the area pick it up. Other people respond. What looks like coincidence from the outside is the frequency finding its match. Picture 2 radio transmitters in the same field. One broadcasts on a clear frequency of scarcity. The signal goes out daily for years. Every receiver tuned to scarcity picks it up. Landlords offer the apartment that matches. Employers offer the kind of friendship that matches. Strangers offer the kind of interaction that matches. The first transmitter receives back exactly the world it has been broadcasting. The mechanism is fair. The mechanism is doing exactly what it was built to do. The other transmitter broadcasts on a different frequency. The world responds to the different frequency the same way. The world is the same world. The broadcast is the variable. The application window for the body in the broadcast is everywhere once you start watching for it. Someone walks into a room, and immediately you know what room they think they are in. Someone shakes a hand, and immediately you know what rate they expect to charge. Someone says hello, and immediately you know what kind of conversation they are expecting to have. The body delivers the broadcast before the conscious mind has had time to compose a sentence. The room receives the broadcast and responds. The conscious mind notices the response and concludes things about the room. The conscious mind has cause and effect reversed. The body sent first. The room replied. The sixth layer is the inner script installed before age 7. Hill found that the person in sustained poverty almost always carried a specific inner script about money installed before the age of 7. The script was usually inherited from a parent who carried it, from a grandparent before that, from conditions in the family environment when the person was small enough to absorb instructions without filtering them. The scripts sound familiar. Money is hard to come by. People with money are not like us. Rich people are dishonest. We are the kind of people who struggle. Our family has never had much. We make do. We do not get our hopes up. We do not count on things. We are practical rather than greedy. The love of money is the root of evil. Wanting more is selfish. Other people need it more than we do. Each of these scripts has a tone. The tone is the carrier. The script lives at the level of the deeper mind, below the level where the conscious mind would catch it and argue with it. The conscious mind asked about money, gives reasonable answers. The conscious mind wants more money. The conscious mind is willing to work for more money. The conscious mind makes plans to earn more money. The inner script runs underneath. It stays quiet. It shows up in the small moments where the conscious mind hands the wheel to the deeper mind. The moment a price is named in a negotiation and the operator reflexively softens before responding, the moment a check arrives larger than expected and the chest tightens instead of expanding, the moment a windfall comes in and within 2 weeks an unrelated expense has consumed it, the moment a raise lands and the lifestyle expands to match it within 60 days, the moment the operator begins to make more than the family they came from and feels the pressure to give it away or hide it, or sabotage it, the moment a client offers a fair rate and the operator hears themselves quoting a lower rate before the conscious mind has finished thinking, the moment a partner suggests a larger purchase the operator could afford, and the operator finds 3 reasons it would be irresponsible, Hill watched this pattern repeat across the failed side of his data. The conscious mind was working. The conscious mind was trying. The inner script was running underneath. And the script was older than the conscious effort, and the script was winning every contest where the two disagreed. The script wins because the script was installed first. The script wins because the script was installed before the operator had the capacity to filter it. The script wins because the script has been confirmed by every result the operator has produced for decades. And every confirmation deepens the groove the script runs in. Picture a riverbed cut into stone over 40 years. Water finds the riverbed. The conscious mind walks up with a bucket of water and tries to pour it into a new channel. The water immediately runs sideways and finds the old riverbed. The conscious mind brings a larger bucket. Same result. The conscious mind brings a hose. The hose flows briefly into the new channel until the moment the operator stops holding the hose, at which point gravity returns the water to the riverbed. The riverbed is the script. The water is the result. The conscious effort is the hose. As long as the riverbed exists, the water will find it. The misunderstanding is that the operator believes they are not making enough money. The actual condition is that they are making exactly the amount their inner script permits. The script is the ceiling. Everything else is execution beneath the ceiling. The conscious mind looks up at the ceiling and assumes it is the sky. Hill quantified this once. In Outwitting the Devil, written in 1938, he wrote that 98% of people drift through life with no definite purpose, controlled by circumstances rather than controlling them, driven by hypnotic rhythm into permanent patterns they never chose. 98 out of every 100. The drifter is the operator running the inherited inner script without ever examining it. The non-drifter is the rare 2 who chose a definite purpose and impressed it on the deeper mind long enough to overwrite what was there. Hill watched the 2% and the 98% for 25 years. The mechanism in both groups was identical. The instruction the mechanism received was the only variable. So that is the before state. The misunderstanding, the mechanism that produces poverty as a sustained condition. The conscious mind feeding fear instructions, the 6 symptoms executing. The filter forwarding scarcity, the set point holding the temperature, the body broadcasting the signal, the inner script installed before age 7. And the 98% who never examine the script. Now we walk through the after. What Hill found on the wealthy side of his data was the same architecture running a different instruction. The people who built fortunes were not smarter. On average, they were not more talented. On average, many of them had less formal education than the people who failed. Many of them had worse starts. Hill kept finding it impossible to predict the outcome from the externals. He kept finding it possible to predict the outcome from the inner state. The inner state of the wealthy was specific. They carried a definite purpose, a clear, repeatable, emotionalized instruction about what they intended to produce and how much they intended to receive. The instruction was specific enough that the deeper mind could execute on it. Not more money, a specific amount by a specific date, in exchange for a specific service. Hill prescribed the 6 steps in Chapter 2 for this exact reason. The instruction had to be specific enough to be actionable at the deeper layer. The conscious mind of a wealthy person dwelt, on average, on the production of value. It thought about service, about quality, about the customer, about the next problem to solve, about the next improvement to make. The deeper mind, hearing this dominant theme repeated daily, retuned itself to the production of value. The filter forwarded opportunities to produce value. The set point held at a level consistent with the value being produced. The body broadcast the signal of someone in the business of producing value. The room responded with the customers, the partners, the resources, and the timing that matched the broadcast. The mechanism in this case stood identical to the mechanism producing poverty. The instruction stood opposite, the output reflected the instruction. Hill watched this in Carnegie himself. Carnegie carried a definite purpose formed in childhood, sustained for decades, articulated daily, well before there was any money to speak of. He started with a clear instruction to the deeper mind about what he intended to produce. The instruction got repeated until it became the operating system. The operating system produced the result. The result was the wealth. Hill watched it in Edison. Edison carried a definite purpose about electricity and a willingness to feed the deeper mind a continuous instruction about what he intended to invent. The deeper mind received the instruction across thousands of repetitions, and the inventions arrived because the architecture was built to produce what it was instructed to produce. Hill watched it in Ford. Ford carried a definite purpose about a horseless carriage and a refusal to entertain the conscious mind's doubts about whether it could be done. He fed the instruction to the deeper mind through repetition, through speech, through plans, through writing, through emotional engagement, through the mastermind of engineers he insisted should keep working until they had produced what he had specified. The V8 single block was produced because Ford had instructed the deeper mind, including the deeper minds of his engineers, that it would be produced. The engineers came back month after month, saying it could not be done. Ford sent them back. The architecture produced what the architecture had been instructed to produce. In every case, the wealth was the output. The instruction was the input. The mechanism in the middle was the same mechanism Hill had watched produce poverty in every other case. The misunderstanding most people are carrying is that wealth comes from external acts. Working harder, earning more, saving more, investing better. These acts have their place. They form the execution layer. The execution layer sits downstream of the instruction layer. Someone executing harder on the wrong instruction reaches a more elaborate version of the same result. Someone executing the right instruction with steady consistency reaches a different result with what looks, from the outside, like less effort. This is the part the culture does not say. The culture says wealth comes from effort, and effort comes from motivation, and motivation comes from goals, and goals come from setting them. The chain sounds reasonable. The chain is incomplete. It leaves out the part where the goal has to be impressed on the deeper mind across multiple channels, with emotion for enough repetitions to overwrite the inner script installed before the conscious mind was old enough to consent. Someone who sets goals on a Sunday afternoon and forgets about them by Wednesday has added a conscious overlay. The overlay does not reach the deeper mind. The deeper mind continues running the program it has been running for 30 or 40 years. The conscious overlay produces 3 weeks of effort. The deeper mind produces the next 40 years of result. The contest does not stay close. Someone who sets a definite purpose writes it down with precision, reads it aloud morning and night with feeling, plans against it, acts toward it daily, and surrounds themselves with a mastermind aligned with it, has begun the work of overwriting the inner script. The work takes time. Hill watched it take years in some cases. He watched it take less in others. The variable was consistency of the instruction over the duration required to overwrite what was already there. The afterstate is observable in someone who has overwritten the script. Someone who has overwritten the inner script handles money differently. They do not flinch at prices that would have made them flinch before. They do not soften in negotiations the way they used to soften. They do not feel discomfort when a larger amount arrives. They feel something closer to expectation. The amount matches the instruction they have been feeding the deeper mind. The arrival reads as the law working. Someone who has overwritten the inner script stops having unexpected expenses appear the week after a windfall. The set point has moved. The thermostat is no longer pulling the room back to 68. The windfall stays. The next opportunity arrives. The set point holds at a higher level, and the room rises to meet it. Someone who has overwritten the inner script broadcasts a different signal. The room responds. They get offered work at different rates. They get invited into rooms they would not have been invited into a year before. They meet people who treat them as a peer in a way that would have felt presumptuous when they were still running the old script. The room responds to what the broadcast carries. The filter forwards different material. Opportunities the old version of the person would have walked past now register. Numbers that would have looked impossible now look reachable. Conversations that would have felt out of place now feel ordinary. The world has not changed. The receiver has been retuned. The body operates differently. The walk is different. The voice on the phone is different. The way the body sits in a chair across from a potential client is different. The body has accepted the new instruction. It is executing the new program. This is the after. Mechanics, working in the opposite direction, the same architecture that produced the before. Reversed in instruction. Identical in operation, Hill summarized this across his 25 years of work with a sentence that has stayed in the lineage ever since. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The sentence gets quoted without the architecture underneath it. The architecture is what we have been walking through. Conceive means form a specific instruction. Believe means impress the instruction on the deeper mind through repetition with emotion until the deeper mind accepts it. Achieve means watch the deeper mind execute the instruction through the filter, the set point, the body, and the broadcast until the external result arrives. Conceive, believe, achieve. 3 steps, a whole architecture compressed into 9 syllables. The architecture has been operating in every life Hill examined, on both sides of the data regardless of whether the person living the life understood it. Nightingale, 20 years after Hill, distilled it further. We become what we think about. 6 words. He had not been making poetry. He was reporting what Hill had found. The recording that carried that sentence became the first spoken word record to receive a gold record. It sold over 1 million copies in 1956. The reason it sold was that the words were true, and they were the first time many listeners had encountered the actual mechanism that had been operating in their lives without their permission. Proctor took it further. He lived the architecture personally. He went from 4,000 a year to over 1 million in a single year by changing the instruction he was feeding the deeper mind. He read a passage from Think and Grow Rich daily. He impressed the instruction on the deeper mind across channels for years. The deeper mind accepted the new instruction. The architecture produced the new result. He taught the mechanics for 60 years. Every seminar said the same thing in different words. The mechanism operates by law. The instruction is the variable. The instruction is what most people have never understood. This is what we do here. So we close where we started. Most of what gets said about poverty is wrong. The framing is wrong because it points at the wrong layer. The cause assigned to it is wrong because the cause sits outside the architecture, actually producing the result. The solution proposed is wrong because it tries to solve at the execution layer what can only be solved at the instruction layer. Hill spent 25 years finding this out. He published the findings in 1937 and 1938. Those findings have not aged. The mechanism has not changed. The misunderstanding remains the most common misunderstanding the operator of a human mind can carry through life without anyone correcting it. The correction is available. The correction is simple. The correction is difficult to do because overwriting an inner script running for 30 years requires sustained instruction across many months, and most people will not do the work because most people will not believe the work produces the result. They keep working at the execution layer. They keep watching the thermostat pull the room back to 68. They keep concluding that they are unlucky, or that the system is rigged, or that wealth is for other kinds of people. The kinds of people who built wealth across Hill's data were the same kinds of people as everyone else. They understood the mechanism and used it deliberately, or they happened upon the mechanism by accident and used it without knowing what they were using. In either case, the mechanism stayed the same. The misunderstanding is the entire game. There is a story Hill returned to many times. R.U. Darby quit mining 3 feet from gold. A man with a borrowed pick and a borrowed pan, who had purchased the equipment when Darby walked away, took up the work 3 feet further into the rock and pulled out one of the richest veins in Colorado. Darby spent the rest of his life selling insurance. He became wealthy in insurance. He told the story constantly. He said the lesson was persistence. The deeper lesson is different. Darby spent his early years carrying an inner script that said the gold would always be 3 feet farther than he could reach. He acted on the script. The script became the result. When he switched to insurance, he switched his inner script to one that said he could close a sale by hearing no and asking again. He had learned the law from the mine. He applied the law in insurance. Same architecture, different instruction, different result. This is what Hill was pointing at across 25 years. The field is the same field. Carnegie's field, Edison's field, Ford's field, yours. The field of every person who walks the earth carrying a deeper mind that accepts what gets impressed on it. The seeds are the variable. The seeds are the instruction. The instruction comes from what the conscious mind dwells on day after day. The instruction gets carried by repetition, by voice, by writing, by feeling, by the mastermind of people the operator has chosen to stand near. The instruction crosses the bridge. The instruction reaches the deeper mind. The deeper mind executes the instruction. The harvest comes. The harvest the operator did not want is the harvest they planted while looking backward at the harvests their parents brought in. The harvest the operator did want is the harvest they planted while looking forward, in rows, with definite purpose, day after day, for the season required. Picture a small field on a slope at sunrise. The tenant has lived on this land for as long as memory holds. The previous tenants planted what they planted, and the harvests came as they came, and the family came to believe the field grew only what it had always grown. The tenant has accepted this as the nature of the field. The tenant has heard it described as the nature of the field by everyone they have ever known. The tenant has confirmed it themselves through 20 harvests that came in exactly as the family said they would. One morning the tenant walks out with a different sack of seed, not because someone gave permission, the tenant decided. The walk is slow at first, the rows are uncertain, the seed goes in with effort the older planting did not require. The first week feels strange. The first month, the walking has become familiar. By the 6th month, the rows have shape. By the 9th month, the field looks different than it has ever looked. The harvest in September is the harvest the tenant planted. The neighbors call it luck. The family calls it strange fortune. The earlier tenants, watching from memory, call it impossible. The field calls it nothing at all. The field grew what was planted, the way fields have always grown what was planted, by law, without preference, without exception. Hill mapped this field nearly 90 years ago. He watched 25 years of harvests in over 500 fields. He wrote down what the soil does. He named the seeds. He named the diseases of the seeds of poverty. He named the cure. He published the cure in books that have sold more than 100 million copies in the time since. The cure has been available for 90 years. The mechanism has been operating for as long as there have been minds. The misunderstanding has continued, generation after generation, because the misunderstanding is the easier story to believe than the truth. The truth is heavier than the misunderstanding, because the truth assigns the planting to the planter. The truth is also lighter than the misunderstanding, because the planter can change the seed in any season they choose. The field is waiting. The seeds are in your hand. The instruction is yours to give. The harvest will come in its season, the way harvests have always come, by law. The misunderstanding has been standing between the hand and the row. The misunderstanding has a name now. The hand is still capable. The row is still empty enough to receive what the hand decides to plant. The sunrise comes tomorrow the same way it came today, the same way it has come every day the field has existed, indifferent to what happened in any previous season, ready for whatever sack of seed the tenant carries out at first light. The field has been waiting longer than the tenant knows.